Race the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more to reach the professionals who are more likely to find your ad relevant. Plus, with 1 billion members on LinkedIn, that means you'll have access to 130 million decision makers and 10 million C-level executives. That's a lot of millions of the right people. Get started today and see how you can reach the right buyers with LinkedIn's enhanced targeting tools. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Go to linkedin.com/MPN to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/MPN. linkedin.com/MPN. Terms and conditions apply.
This message comes from Greenlight. Ready to start talking to your kids about financial literacy? Meet Greenlight, the debit card and money app that teaches kids and teens how to earn, save, spend wisely, and invest with your guardrails in place. With Greenlight, you can send money to kids quickly, set up chores, automate allowance, and keep an eye on your kids' spending with real-time notifications. Join millions of parents and kids building healthy financial habits together on Greenlight. Get started risk-free at greenlight.com/Spotify.
Coming up on this episode of the Entrepreneurial You,
there is a legitimate, time-tested, tried-and-true way to publish a book, publish a good book, and release it and make the maximum amount of money possible in the book world. Bookmaking, like anything else, is a skill that's acquired after working many years and honing that skill to perfection.
Hey, it's John Lee Dumas of EO Fire, and it's the Entrepreneurial You, the show for dedicated and passionate Caribbean entrepreneurs seeking daily inspiration, brought to you by author, speaker, and award-winning entrepreneur Heneka Watkis-Porter. You must be prepared to ignite.
welcome back to another exciting episode of the Entrepreneurial You podcast. I'm your host, Heneka Watkis-Porter, and today we're talking about something many entrepreneurs dream of: publishing a book. My guest is none other than Michele DeFilippo, who has over 50 years of experience in book publishing and has helped countless authors release top quality books while avoiding scams. So if you ever wanted to write a book but felt overwhelmed by the process or worried about getting ripped off, this episode is going to be packed with insights just for you. So hang tight. The topic: how to publish a bestseller without getting scammed. So you perhaps know that publishing a book doesn't have to be confusing or costly, or maybe you thought so, but it doesn't have to be. So if you know what questions to ask and what pitfalls to avoid, that certainly can guide you along the way more seamlessly. Michele's mission is simple: help authors keep control of their books while maximizing profits. Today, we'll explore her tips on hybrid publishing, ISBNs, marketing strategies, and more. Welcome, Michele.
Thank you so much, Heneka. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
Absolutely. And here is my icebreaker question for you. What's the most shocking scam or bad deal you've seen in the publishing world?
Oh my gosh. Well, I've been in publishing since 1972. So that's 54 years almost. And I tell you, I can't count the number of scams and bad things that are happening in my beloved field right now. And so that's why I started doing these podcasts, to help authors try to avoid the nonsense that's going on right now. There is a legitimate, time-tested, tried-and-true way to publish a book, publish a good book, and release it and make the maximum amount of money possible in the book world. But so many authors are getting pulled away from that into something that really is not in their benefit. And so that's why I'm here.
Mm-hmm. So thanks for that, Michele. After 50 odd years in the business, surely there have been changes and transitions and transformations within the publishing industry over all these years. How have you seen it changed?
Oh my gosh, where do I begin? It's almost laughable when I look back now and think of how the way we used to make books back in 1972. So the technological changes have been really great. I mean, we used to, if you can believe it, if we wanted to put a box around some text, we used to have to draw it with a pen and ink in order to create that. It's almost unthinkable now, but
It is unthinkable. I'm like, what?
yeah, and we used to do the older members of your audience will remember we used to do what was called cut and paste, and that's done on the computer now, but we used to literally cut and paste pieces of type together in order to assemble pages. So it's really been quite a roller coaster ride, but we've kept up with it, and the new tools are actually faster and more accurate than anything we ever did by hand.
Excellent, excellent. Wow. I mean, that's just life. When we think about we used to ride horse and buggy. And now
Uh-huh.
look at us now, right? We're booking flights to go to the moon.
Yeah, it's amazing. Progress always is for the better, but sometimes it's a bumpy ride.
Yes, it can be a bumpy ride. And so your role, your mission really is to take the bumps and the kinks out of the road, right? So how do you help your clients? What are some red flags, that you point out to them that they should be looking out for when choosing even publishing services, and how do you help your clients?
Well, this is going to surprise a lot of people, and that is that they don't actually need a publisher to self-publish a book. Self-publishing, when it originally came about, meant that the author was the publisher, and the author would hire the experts to produce the book and then receive all of the net revenue from sales when books were sold. And that was great because that meant authors did not have to go to a publisher to obtain distribution. They could publish the book they wanted to produce. There were no gatekeepers that would tell them what they could and could not do. And then they would make all the money instead of just a small royalty. Now, in the last 20 years or so, and that all came about because Amazon changed book distribution forever. It used to be that you had to go through a publisher in order to distribute your book to the public. But now that's not true. Amazon will allow anyone to upload book files and offer it to the public, and you don't have to have anyone else's permission to publish your book. You do still need services, and that's where the whole industry has gone wrong right now. There's a lot of people offering very low-level services, and these now publishers have come back into the mix, and they charge people to produce the book, and then they also take money out of their pocket on the back end, which doesn't work out too well for authors.
Right. So you now help your customers, your clients to, look out for that. And of course, when they come to you, they have come to the right place. Now, at what stage of the writing process do they normally come to you, Michelle? Is it that it's just from the ideation stage, or they've started writing the book, they have a manuscript, and then they decide, you know what, I need somebody to help me on this, or even maybe formatting the manuscript, and then they come to you to perhaps get book cover designs or distribution. What stage of the game do they seek you out?
Yes, well, authors usually come to us most often when they've been working on their manuscript for 3 months or 3 years or 10 years, and they can no longer stand to look at it anymore. And that's where our services would come in. We will offer the copy editing services that they need, and also walk them through every stage of the process, including cover design, interior design, and typesetting, which is not formatting, by the way. That's another subject. We'll make an ebook. We'll proofread the manuscript after it's been typeset. We will make an ebook and all sorts of other services if they need it. We'll work with audiobooks, websites, whatever the individual author needs. And we don't force authors into packages. We customize the services based on the individual needs of the author.
Oh, that sounds really good because, when I look back, I mean, I've since learned my lesson, and I've done, publishing myself. I've self-published a lot of my books. But my very first book, I got caught in this scam.
Mm.
I mean, it's a legitimate company, but albeit it's a scam because I spent so much money. And then I learned after just to do some things that I was not guided on properly, and even the royalties and stuff. And had I known, been really been clear about what I was getting into, but I was so excited to have my first book published and to get somebody on board to, they claim they did everything, but they really didn't do much. You know what I mean?
I'm so
So,
sorry. I'm so sorry.
yeah,
No,
I
that's
got.
seriously, that shouldn't happen to anyone. And that's what's changed, in my view, about the modern world is if you're in business, you should legitimately help your customers. You shouldn't take advantage of their lack of knowledge in order to profit from it. It's just ridiculous what's going on now.
Absolutely. But we with platforms like Amazon, and there's so many others,
Hmm.
Kindle Direct Publishing by Amazon, and there's so many others that allow you to self-publish, and even for those who will employ services such as yours, Michelle, they are very aware, or sometimes more aware, of the options that they have, and they go into something with their eyes wide open, as opposed to being scammed. Scam is perhaps a strong word, but that's what it feels like at times.
Well, yeah, and I think, well, we actually recommend that people use Amazon, but once their files are created, once they've created a good book, then KDP is a great place to upload the book so that you get worldwide distribution. We also recommend using Ingram Spark along with Amazon to get
Mhm.
the wider distribution network. But the key is that you should always control your book files, right? When authors work with a publisher, they lose control of those files that they were charged to create. We've heard stories where people want to, move on and not work with that publisher anymore, and the publisher won't give them the files. They have to create their book all over again from scratch, and
Mm.
that's just flat out wrong, right?
Yeah, that's wrong. Just,
Yeah,
thinking
yeah.
about it, listening to it that way, it just makes my heart pain to hear that. And I'm glad that we have reputable persons like yourself in the industry that, are not taking advantage of people, of clients, because they're unaware, you know.
Well,
But
exactly. And I describe it as a joke. The nuns who taught me are dead, but they're still watching me.
true, true. Can self-published books, though, really compete with traditionally published books?
Yes, they can if they are done correctly according to industry standards. And that's the advice we give our authors all the time, because the do it yourself message is completely wrong.
Mhm.
That's the worst advice anybody can follow, because bookmaking, like anything else, is a skill that's
Mhm.
acquired after working many years and honing that skill to perfection. And when people go to Amazon to find your book, Amazon isn't just going to show your book, it's going to show the bestsellers that are similar. And so your book has to measure up. It can't look self published, it can't look like an amateur production. Otherwise, people just won't buy it. So your book needs to be made to traditional publishing standards, and that's what we do.
Awesome. But then how do they really compete? Because there is, although I've done several self-published books, my desire, I must tell you, has been to be traditionally published. Like, I would love to be contacted by, an agent and say, "Hey, this firm needs you, and here's your advance," right?
Hmm.
And I was actually at one point pursuing that. I do have a manuscript for pretty much what maybe it's an autobiography. Yes, it is. And it's still there, just awaiting some um, publisher to reach out to me, right? I've actually tried getting agents. I did get a response from one. Well, I got a response from many actually. Some of them saying it's not a good fit, but there's one that I should be working on. But when I thought about what would be necessary for them to actually work with me to get my one of the books republished, because that's what they thought I should do instead of doing a new one. And like, you know what? Let me put that on pause for a while. So
Hmm.
and I did that. I shared the story, Michelle, because I know it came from a place of ego, like, oh, I just wanted to feel that feeling, you know what I mean? So can self-published books really compete outside of the fact that, yes, if you do a better cover and all of these things, but in terms of the entire process and even the idea that a traditionally published book is better, can it really compete?
Well, yes, it can. It takes marketing. It takes a lot of work. Traditional publishers still have a role. It's very difficult to make a connection with a traditional publisher. They want authors who have social media following of 100,000 people, right? And because they don't do much marketing anymore, they'll do a push when your book is first released. The benefit of traditional publishers is that they won't charge the author to produce the book.
Right.
But when they get that manuscript, they're going to shape it into what they believe the book should be, and you will have no say about it. So that's the downside of it. And you can't blame them for that because they're making the investment and they want to do everything that, in their view, will give the book the best chance to succeed. But sometimes authors don't want anyone to change their book, and that's why self-publishing is so popular. Now, so a legitimate publisher will not charge you to produce the book, and they will pay you a royalty in return so that they get a return on that investment, right? The publishers out there today, hybrid publishers, whatever they call themselves, are charging the author to produce the book, and then they're also taking money out of the back end and paying the author less than they should be getting when a book is sold. And that's my key point. You really need to watch out who you're working for. If someone is charging you to produce the book, they shouldn't be taking money out of your pocket when the book is sold because they have no investment in the book. You know, we charge authors for our services, but we don't take a cent out of your pocket when a book is sold.
Oh, wow, interesting. All right,
Yeah.
so let's talk about we don't have to go one extreme or the other. How about hybrid publishing?
Well, hybrid publishers, there are a few good ones, to be fair. Some of the hybrid publishers will charge the authors for the production of the book, you know, the editing, cover design, and so forth. And then the hybrid publisher will pay for marketing, right? And in that instance, now they're just a partner like anyone else. So if they're making a financial investment in the book along with you, then they deserve to get a cut of the revenue when the book sells. But many of these publishers now are charging the author for every aspect, including the production and the marketing, and they're still taking money out of the author's pocket when the book sells. And that's really not legitimate in my view.
Mm-hmm. And there's some technical things like ISBNs. Like, let's talk a little bit about that and what should a client know? Somebody who wants to write a book, what should a client know about ISBNs and what is that really?
Yes, the ISBN is you could think of it as the model number for your book. It describes your book to the industry databases. So you will need an ISBN for every format of your book, whether it's hardcover, softcover, ebook, audiobook. And I always recommend that authors buy ISBNs in their own name so that they are listed as the publisher of the book.
And not Amazon, right?
Yeah, if you work with a publisher, and some of them they promise a free ISBN, which sounds good, but what they're doing is they're giving you one of their ISBNs, so they are listed as the publisher of your book, and you've now lost control of the whole process.
Okay, so breakdown. I mean, I just use an abbreviation, but what is it really?
ISBN. It stands for International Standard Book Number.
Awesome. And
every country has one ISBN agency. In the United States, it's Bowker. And you can go there to, the website is myidentifiers.com, and you can purchase ISBNs in your own name. Now, Bowker sells ISBNs two ways: single ISBNs for $125 each, or a package of 10 ISBNs for $250.75 with our discount. We can get you a 15% discount. And of course, that's the better buy because you're going to use, 2 or 3 ISBNs right out of the gate.
All right, let's talk about marketing strategy, Michele, because it's interesting that we're having this conversation today, because earlier I was just asked by email of from a publisher in Jamaica here who does books just like yourself to do fill out a questionnaire. And when I looked at the questionnaire, I sent her a message to say, look, when I was done, I don't think I should call myself an author because, I have not been moving any books. I have not been doing anything at all. So let's talk marketing strategies and marketing strategies for the busy people like myself who want to sell books but don't have time to sell books, if that's even possible.
Well, it does require an investment of money and of time if you want to be the publisher of your book. There's no getting around that. So that might argue in some cases for people to work with a publisher, but they should make sure it's a legitimate small press or that doesn't charge you to produce the book and take money out of your book out of your pocket on the back end.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, a legitimate publisher doesn't charge the author to produce the book.
Right. But let's talk about some of the marketing strategies so somebody has a book now. How do we make money from the book? How do we, ensure that we have book sales? That's what we want to learn right now.
Oh, marketing is the most difficult thing. I will be the first one to tell you that. Today we have social media, we have blogs, we have review sites, and that's what we do is we recommend a marketing expert, 3 marketing experts to our clients, and they can talk to each one of them and figure out what the best strategy is. We don't actually get into the marketing ourselves. We specialize in just the production side of things.
Right. Okay. So you don't really give advice in terms of how persons just being in the industry, just tips on how they can get their books out there. It doesn't have to be detailed, but if you can give any insights, one of the top 2 or so strategies that persons can use to market their books?
Well, one of our most popular services is author marketing coaching. And for a very small investment, I can put you in touch with a coach who will take 12 weeks, 12 one-hour sessions and teach you how to market your book. And my customers love that. That's less expensive than hiring a marketing firm, obviously, because what the firm does is it implements the strategies and it also does the implementation for you, which costs them money. So if you learn to market the book yourself, that one-time investment in the coaching you can use that across multiple books and always just adapt to whatever is happening in the market at that time.
What I want to find out from you, Michele, is somebody's thinking about writing a book right now. They're a little confused, but here you are offering a solution. What's the first step that you tell them to take, even outside of hiring you?
Well, the first step that I think authors should take, and sometimes they get this backwards, is they write the book that they are interested in and that they think is going to be terrific. And there's nothing wrong with that as long as you also do research. What you want to do is find a problem in the world and write the book that solves a problem for a lot of people, because now you've got a product that a lot of people will be interested in. So I guess my advice would be to step out of yourself a little bit before you begin writing and make sure that you're actually solving a problem for someone. Nonfiction is easier to sell than fiction because there's tons of problems in the world. Fiction is more viewed as entertainment, so it's hard to make a fiction book stand out in people's minds. But if you can solve a business problem for them or a personal problem, self-help, or about almost any topic, then you have a better chance of selling books.
All right. Let me take a pause right here, Michele, and go to the community connection segment. And this is a place for you or peak performers to share just about, whatever you want to share back with me, whether it's a book review, the podcast review, just of you engaging with me in this community. I'd love to hear from you. But in the meantime, I will keep sharing, and I've been sharing over the last couple of weeks, and I'm so excited to share again that I'd love to have you be a part of the upcoming leadership cruise that is leaving from Fort Lauderdale to the Bahamas, the beautiful Bahamas, and it's going to be aboard Royal Caribbean's Liberty of the Seas for 5 days in November. It's going to be personal development, networking, and lots of fun. You don't want to miss this. You don't want me to come back here and tell you about it. You want to be on that ship with us. So if you are interested in learning more, please contact me at henekawatkisporter.com or send me a WhatsApp 876-849-2571 so I can fill you in on the details. Yes, I want to see you aboard the Royal Caribbean Liberty of the Seas. All right, back with Michele DeFilippo. Michele, you've been sharing some nuggets with us, and I'm going to ask you just to share your final thoughts as we wrap about how to publish a bestseller. We have not touched on that bestseller part of it just a lot. I mean, just yet. So I'm going to ask you as we're wrapping now, Michele, just to zone in on that aspect of it, because we want to make sure that we give our audience value. What we promise is what we want to give to them. So share some insights about how to publish a bestseller.
Well, I hope I don't get into trouble here, but basically my belief is that you are not going to get a bestseller. And that's another one of the scams out there. When you come across a company that promises a bestseller to you, what they're probably doing is fooling Amazon's algorithm to put up a bestseller badge. You know, what they'll do is they'll get 100 people to buy your book in 45 minutes, and Amazon's computer is tricked momentarily to think, wow, this book is just flying out the door. This must be a bestseller. And of course, after that 45 minutes is up, it doesn't result in bestseller level sales. So that's actually one of the red flags that authors should look for. You know, we've all come across people who claim to be best-selling authors, and we never heard of them, and we never heard of their book. And I think on some level, everybody understands that, but the practice persists, and that's one of the things I argue against. You may not have a bestseller in the traditional terms. You could use your book to promote your business. I give away copies of my little book called Published Like the Pros if people go to my website at 1106design.com, and it talks about this and other things. And you can use a book to promote your business and make lots of money without ever selling very many copies retail.
Right. And what you've said right there is right, you know, and I wondered about that practice because so many people claim that they are indeed Amazon bestseller. But let me ask you, whether it's a bestseller of 100,000, a million copies or anything, isn't that worth something to those authors to say that they got this badge because they were able, not even though it may be strategically tricking to an extent the algorithm? Isn't it difficult to even sell that many books to begin with? So the fact that they were able to get persons in that instant, in that small window, to buy their books, doesn't that speak for something?
Well, that's the thing, right? The sales don't materialize. They're not selling 100,000 copies. They may be selling 200 copies.
Right.
And then they claim to be a bestseller. So let's just say it's not transparent. And maybe people go into it and believe it. I don't know, but I think more people now understand it's really not the truth.
Mm-hmm. Right. All right. So use the last few moments, Michele, to give us your final thoughts. You know, just give a final overview of what we've spoken about and how might our community be in touch with you.
Well, thank you. My belief is that you should always do your best whenever you're putting out any kind of product or service to the marketplace. And in the book world, that starts with producing a market quality book. And it also starts with understanding how you should be paid, how much you should be paid, and who you hire to help you do that. Like we said, the publishers, if they charged you for every service, then they shouldn't be taking money out of your pocket on the back end. And you need to ask some pointed questions about that. How are you calculating my royalty? What's the wholesale discount? What's the printing charge? How much am I going to get in my account every time I sell a book? And you can verify the answer they give you by going to kdp.com and ingramspark.com and plugging in the same retail price. You'll see the wholesale discount. you'll see the print charge, and you'll see the net that you should be getting. Now, in a $20 book, the net to the author should be about $8. Maybe depending on the length of the book, it could be $5 to $7. But I have talked to authors personally who are getting $1 to $2 per book. So that's a really big difference. That's impactful, and it's really not fair to the author.
Mm-hmm. All right. That has been insightful. How might our community reach you?
Great. Yes, my website is 1106design.com, and I believe in complete transparency. You'll find all of our prices there. You'll find design samples, educational articles, and if you give us your email address and subscribe to our newsletter, you can download a copy of my free book, which is called Publish Like the Pros. And I hope you do that. And regardless of what way what decision you make after that, I will know and feel good that you at least made an informed decision.
Awesome. All right, so now I'm going to move into what we call the trending now. And yeah, listen. So here is an eye-opening statistic that I want to share with you. Authors lose over 500 million annually due to predatory publishing scams, and AI-generated books are flooding platforms like Amazon faster than ever before. And this makes professional design and marketing more important than ever. So when we have guests here like Michele DeFilippo, then we know that, we are giving you information that will help you to avoid those scams, right? Don't be scammed. Everybody wants to, or not everybody, but a lot of you want to become an author. But it's important that you vet. Vet is very important. Vet whomever it is that you're approaching, whichever company, whichever coach, whichever client, organization you're approaching. Vet them properly so that you avoid the scam. And that's what's trending now. I'd want to say thank you so much for joining us today, Michele. It has been a pleasure hosting you on the Entrepreneurial You podcast.
Thank you so much, Heneka. I appreciate your having me on as a guest, and I hope my information was helpful. I'll be happy to talk to anyone, no obligation, no cost, and give them any more information if they need it.
Awesome. And for listeners, for your peak performers ready to publish smartly and successfully, visit Michele at 1106design.com. So that's design, no S there, 1106design.com. And you can get resources there and reach out to her for expert advice. So if this episode inspired you or taught you something new, please subscribe to the Entrepreneurial You, leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and share this episode with an aspiring author in your life. Here's what I want you to affirm with me today. I am an empowered author who makes informed decisions about my book, okay? Right, so if you're thinking about authorship, affirm that. Thank you so much to our sponsors, the Jamaica Stock Exchange, and of course, HenekaWatkis-Porter.com. Do take care.
You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Robbie Samuels hosts the On the Schmooze podcast. Robbie, tell listeners what to expect from the show.
Since 2015, I've interviewed entrepreneurs who overcame challenges to achieve success in their field or industry. Tune in to On the Schmooze to listen as I ask deep questions to elicit untold stories about leadership and networking.
And where can people subscribe?
Find the show at ontheschmooze.com or on marketingpodcast.net, or just search for it wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard them. Go subscribe. This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.